fellas.
Nah, no, we don't need none of that right now. Not today. We can say that for the next Zoom. Jake, we got everybody on, or are we waiting on some people?
We're for the most part good to go. I'll text them individually and get them to hop on.
All right. Is KB jumping on?
He should be. I'm not sure if he is dealing with anything. I'll text him though.
All right. We'll see if he'll hop on in a second before we get going. How long you been in Cali?
I came out here about a month ago, and I rented a house in the hills for the next 90 days, and then we'll see. Maybe go back to Chicago, maybe stay in LA. But weather's nice here right now, so no complaints.
Hey, that LA is a different life, man. I can't blame you.
Yeah.
Is it wide open right now?
Yeah, LA's open. They're just starting to open the restaurants and stuff, so you can kind of go sit outside. But I rented a house, and basically I haven't left. I'm gonna try to just import anything I need up here. So instead of going to the restaurant, get the Grubhub or get groceries and everything like that. And I've been cooking, which is fun. So I've been cooking up a storm. So if any of you fellas find yourself in LA, come up and we'll grill out. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess we can get started since we got most of the guys on.
Cool.
And I'll just, give you an intro and you could take it. But, fellas, thanks for being here. Steve, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to, talk to our guys. One of the things, we've been trying to do is just open doors for them and connect them with people across all different walks of life. And, you were one of the people that, I've had a great relationship with. And, so you graduated in Duke in 2010, which we didn't overlap. It was the year before I got there. But, basically all your little homies were my big homies in school and took care of me. And that's how we got connected. And you fast forward, 10 years later, we're in this position. So, I'll give you the floor and you can just, go and we'll open it up to guys at the end of your talk. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Coach. Honored to be talking with you guys. And just before we get started, who's heard of Cameo before? Cool, a couple of you. All right, so for those of you that don't know, Cameo is a marketplace where people can book personalized video messages from your favorite athletes, actors, or celebrities. So imagine, your little brother's got a big game coming up, and it's state championship, and you're looking to get him a little inspiration. On Cameo, you could get Kyrie to speak to your brother and kind of pump him up for his game, anything like that. The big idea that we had in 2016 when we started the business is that the selfie is the new autograph. And I know all of you guys, playing in college at different points, you've been exposed to NBA players, you've been exposed to, top level college players, maybe when you were in junior high, when you were in elementary school, going to camps. And, when I was a kid, what do we used to do? I'm a 90s Bulls guy. I grew up in Chicago. I had my Bulls hat, and you see Ron Harper, he's signing that thing for you. And today what happens? You guys see somebody famous, Coach Ty brings a player around that he played with that's in the NBA. You guys are taking that picture, put it on Instagram. If it's not on the gram, it didn't happen. So basically the whole idea is that the selfie is the new autograph. How do you take a selfie remote in a world where you're not ever meeting that person in real life? And that's really where we had this idea that, if you got it in video, then suddenly you didn't need to meet that person in real life to have that personalized, authentic moment. We started the business early, and one of the really telling things, one of my best friends, from college is a guy named Lance Thomas. Lance played, for the New York Knicks for most of the last decade. But when we graduated 2010, he had just come off a national championship, 4-year starter at Duke, team captain. He thought he was going to get drafted, and all of a sudden he didn't get drafted. Then in 2010, you had a lockout in the NBA. So suddenly Lance, who thought he was going to come in, be at least a second-round pick in the draft, was caught right in the bus Austin Toros and in the D League. And instead of making, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year, he's suddenly making, 20, 30 grand, playing in the D League, riding buses. Like, it's great, good money compared to, what you guys are able to make in college, at least till they change the rules next year. But, at the time it was tough. And one of the philosophies that we've had is that in the age of social, people today are more famous than they are rich. So you think of Lance Thomas, right? A guy played for the Knicks for almost a decade, playing in the biggest media market in the world, was starting for a while after Carmelo got hurt. And he has about 70,000 followers on Instagram. When Zion came to Duke, he had 2.1 million followers on Instagram before he played his first game. And each one of you guys, because you're coming up in an age where social media is prevalent, you guys are developing a following. In high school, all the people around you to get at the college level, they've been following you. If you had played, you look at even, Ty, who had a great career at Duke, and you look at guys today that are, the bench players at Duke, they might have, 200,000, 300,000 followers on Instagram. So the thing that's cool is that you guys are all getting a platform. As athletes, you're developing this platform, and it's not just for athletes. It's for it's for actors and musicians and all types of things. Last summer there was an artist named Lil Nas X. You guys all saw it, Old Town Road. That song was the biggest song in history. It had a record for the most amount of weeks on week one. I've seen Lil Nas X live. I don't know if any of you guys have. I don't think he's going to be anything but a one-hit wonder. But now this guy's got 20 million followers for the rest of his life that he can monetize. And, when I was a kid in 1999, there was a band called Chumbawamba that had a song called Tub Thumper. That was the biggest song in the world in my day. But who knows where those guys are now? So one of the cool things is today there's more famous people than ever because of social, and people are more famous now than they've ever been. So both the magnitude of fame and the total amount of fame in the world is increasing right now. So with that in mind, we really thought that we could start creating almost like the Uber for athletes, the Uber for entertainers, right? For 30 seconds, you pull out your phone, you record a video, you make somebody's day. And, we started with that concept. It started working real well. And over the last 3.5 years now, we've now just crossed our millionth video on June 1st. We've built a business out of nothing that's now worth over $300 million. This year we'll do over $100 million in bookings. And as soon as we raise money again, this will be $1 billion business, which is really exciting. And we've been able to recruit, great people, from all over the country to come work with us and, work on it as a talent side on or just love the product as a customer. One of the things we're famous for is when people get these Cameo videos, they freak out. If you got Kyrie to speak to your little brother, like, I don't care like who he is, like he's gonna, think about all of your idols. Your biggest idol told you that, they want you to wish you good luck before a game or wish you happy birthday or anything like that. I don't care who you are, you're gonna be excited. You're gonna be excited. In fact, when I was at Andreessen Horowitz pitching one of the top investment firms in the world, Chris Lyons, who runs their culture fund, who's KD's best friend in the Valley, said, for KD's birthday, Nike got Obama to make him a cameo, right? And like you think about that, KD could talk to anyone in the world, and here Nike was, they got unlimited reach, and they thought that the most impactful thing in the world they could do for KD was to literally get Obama to wish him happy birthday, and he kind of like lost his mind on that. So, with that, I don't want to drone on today. I'd love to talk to you guys about entrepreneurship. I'd like to talk to you guys about anything you got questions about. This time's yours, and I just want to be here to be helpful to you all and do take this conversation any way you guys wanted to.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Steven? How did you guys start? Like, who was your first big athlete or big name and how did you go about getting them to agree to do something like this?
Yeah, this is a great question. Anytime you're starting a business like this, this is a marketplace business. So our business model is similar to Uber or Airbnb, right? So we have supply and demand. And you can imagine in the early days, we're building a marketplace for athletes to connect with their biggest fans, but we had no fans on it and we had no athletes. So we had to, they always call this problem in entrepreneurship, the chicken and the egg question, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? In our case, we had pretty high conviction that if we could get the athletes on first, then we could get the athletes to go on Twitter to promote it to their Twitter followings and basically to turn their followers into our customers for free. So as I started the company, I had a couple good friends that I started it with. One of them, Martin, my co-founder, was an NFL agent and movie producer. So he had a lot of connections with different actors and athletes. He was a sprinter at USC, and he walked on to USC football. My other co-founder, Devin, was one of the original Vine stars. So he had over 1 billion loops on Vine, and he was really well connected in the world of, like, I don't know if you guys like David Dobrik or Cody Ko or any of these YouTube guys. That's his world. Like he grew up in that, and he was an OG there. And then, my nickname since I was in kindergarten was the mayor. I just know everybody. I'm a connector, natural born. So for me, I started with, we started with our friends. We tried to build something that'd be interesting, right? Lance Thomas is a big personality. Like a lot of Duke people love him, but when he was on the Knicks, like, for a lot of his career, he was riding the bench, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have a voice and he wasn't special to a lot of people that grew up, in New Jersey where he grew up, or he wasn't a legend for anybody that was a big Duke fan, and he could be impactful. So I think it always starts when you're building product to try to build something for your friends, try to solve a real problem for real people. And the first talent that we got on was this guy named Cassius Marsh. Cassius was, he's still in the NFL. He was a 6th-round draft pick out of UCLA. And, one funny story about Cash, when he got drafted about halfway through his rookie year, somebody broke into his car, and he's obsessed with the game Magic the Gathering. Do you guys know that game? So Magic the Gathering is a super nerdy card game. And here's this guy, he's 285 pound, NFL defensive tackle, super tough, tatted, just a, badass fucking guy. And he loves this card game that, like, you probably, I don't know, some of you guys might play it, but it's like probably the nerdiest game that you could have ever seen. And anyways, so he was at the Seattle Seahawks facility, and someone broke into his car and stole 50 G's worth of Magic the Gathering cards, right? So all of a sudden, he gets on Twitter. He takes a picture of his car that's all smashed up, and he's sending tweets out like, "Hey 12s," which is what Seahawks fans call themselves. I don't want to press charges. I just want my cards back. These things are my life. And he makes Magic the Gathering go viral. Like, here you are, an NFL player. No NFL players playing this card game, or like probably very few. And to put in perspective, like, unless you're Tom Brady, unless you're LeBron, like, you're not getting many endorsement deals. I mean, how many guys in the NBA have a signature sneaker? I think there's under 6 guys in the NBA that got their own sneaker, right? Everybody thinks they're going to get the NBA and get endorsement deals, but the vast majority of players in NFL and NBA, they're not going to get it. The top 1/10 of 1% might get almost all the big deals. And then everybody else is just, collecting their paycheck. And that's why, there was that documentary Broke that ESPN put out, 30 for 30. 80% of NFL players go broke within 5 years of playing their last game. So how are we helping people make as much money as they can in a time where they're most relevant? And in this case, Cash makes this company go viral, Magic the Gathering, and his agent, Martin, couldn't even get him an endorsement deal to come to Vegas and speak at card shows or be a face of the brand, right? So it's like, if you make Magic the Gathering go viral and they won't even sign you up for an endorsement deal, there's no point. But this guy had 300,000 followers on Instagram. So it's like, there's got to be something he can do with this platform. And, when we put him on Cameo, the very first person that booked one was like, "Hey, my daughter is your biggest fan in the world." And when she got that video, she was so excited, she started crying, and that kind of set it all off. So my advice is, Isaac, you want to start something, you always got to start with solving one real problem for real people.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Mr. Steven, I have a question for you.
I don't need a mister. I'm just Steven. I'm not that much older than you guys. My beard might look better than your beards, but I'm just Steven.
All right. Do you have like a favorite memory or interaction with like a kid and a athlete or some sort?
Yeah, I'll tell you kind of the craziest memory that I got. So in the early days, right, we're trying to get this thing off the ground, and we're trying to understand like how special this is. And when we first started, like this was kind of taboo, right? We started just with pro athletes, and originally people were like, well, as a fan, like why should I be paying for an athlete to do this? Shouldn't they be doing it for free, right? That was a big thing. It was kind of awkward to charge your fans for anything before. Now, needless to say, like forever people have been charging for meet and greets. Like you go to a concert, you want to go VIP, like you're going to go pay to meet them. You pay for autographs at different conventions. So like the process of talent charging fans was not new, but it was still like pretty controversial at the beginning. And then I'll never forget, there was this guy named Ben Bruce. He's a singer of a band called Asking Alexandra. They're kind of like an emo band, goth, kind of like really, almost like a Fall Out Boy from probably my generation, but like a little tougher. But anyways, these guys, I'll never forget, this guy wrote in, and the request to Ben Bruce was, hey, my girlfriend's brother just OD'd on heroin, and your music is what's been getting her through these really rough days. We missed her concert in Chicago because of the funeral, but like I need you to tell her to hold on and like stay strong, right? Imagine as an artist or like anyone of note, if you're an athlete and you get a fan saying to that, imagine responding to that. And like to me, that was one I'll never forget as long as I live. Like watching that video, and it was kind of black and white, and like it was just so visceral, and you could just tell the impact that this man was going to have on this girl's life that got it. And to me, that's what we're in business to put smiles on people's faces and to make them happy. And that was, that's one I'll never forget.
I have another question for you, Steven.
Yeah.
You said that, I forgot how much money you said you first made, like the first 2 years or whatever. But I remember you said that you're due to do like over 100 million this year.
Yeah.
Now, how does your mind work, or your team's mind work, in terms of growing? Because you have companies like Apple. They had the iPhone. Now they get the iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Every year something different comes out. So what are you guys doing to be just to think a step ahead or 2 steps ahead?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with Cameo, the idea for Cameo is to build the marketplace where for X amount of money, you can do Y activity with Z person. Okay. So like you could imagine all the things you could do with somebody that's famous. You could get a cameo from them. They could like show up at your birthday party. You could go fishing with them. Like, just think of any possible thing you could do with anyone you admire. Like, you could like bring Snoop Dogg in the studio with you, like whatever it is, imagine all those things. For us, the core is like, let's get all the talent. We have 30,000 celebrities on the platform today. We think there's over 5 million people in the world that can be on it. And when you think about market expansion, not this year, but next year, in 2 years coming up, like college athletes are going to be able to monetize their personal likeness, which is really exciting, right? So in the future, like Zion's not going to have to wait until after, the tournament's over for him to like come on. Personal likeness, things like Cameo are things like every college athlete's going to be able to do, which is really exciting as we look at how that's all changing. So for us, the core concept over the last few years has been just keep doing the core thing well. I think like Apple at the end of the day, right? Like if they don't make a great computer, nobody's going to want to use their iPad. Nobody's going to want to use their iPhone. Like it all starts with doing one thing extremely well and then iterating off the core. So for us, for the first 3.5 years, all we did is the personalized video shout out. And just 10 days ago, we launched our second product, which is now a Zoom call. So let's say, you wanted to, instead of me, you guys wanted to have Brett Favre or Snoop Dogg or somebody like that come on your Zoom. Like you can now go on Cameo and book a celebrity to come and do a Zoom call with you for 10 minutes. And, that's the next exciting thing that we're doing. But it all starts with getting the talent on. And once they're happy with your core product, then you can offer them, hey, Snoop, you really like making these videos. What do you think if we took it live and you jumped on a Zoom? Oh, yeah, that's pretty dope. I'll try it, right? But it all starts with making them happy with the first thing.
And when it comes to where you guys started,
Yeah.
how long from the point when you actually created Cameo did it take for Cameo to become profitable?
So as a like venture backed tech company, the goal is not really to become profitable yet. Like, I don't know if you guys have read much about Amazon, but Amazon went over 20 years before they became profitable. The idea was always like, if you can invest in growth, you always want to do that above profitability, at least until you become a publicly traded company. So we're really early in our day, but I want to show you guys something that I think you'll find kind of cool. So I'm going to show you guys actually like Cameo's monthly. Uh, I think screen share is disabled, but anyways, I was going to share with you guys like our monthly bookings. But the first month that we sold a Cameo was in February of 2017. We did $125 in bookings that month. We did 480 the next. We did 910 the next. And then if you look at the last 3 months, we did
I just enabled you to screen share if you wanna
Okay,
share it
cool.
now.
Yeah. I think this is kind of cool. So, can you guys see all the way at the bottom here, the screen share?
Yeah.
So keep in mind that we've been working on this since October. So it took us from October of 2016 to February 2017 to even get here, $125. And keep in mind that's our gross bookings. We make 25% of that. So me and my co-founders couldn't even gone to lunch, with all the money we made one time that first month. But then what do? We went from 125 to 480. Went from 480 to 910 to 3,000, then 8,000, right? And we just kept going. And then, look at the jump that we've done since shelter in place started. Up here, we were doing 3 million, then 3.3 million in March. Then shelter in place hit 9 million, right? Then 13 and a half. We've already done 7.3, and we're not even, we still got a bunch left of June. So at the end of the day, like, don't focus on like, Rome wasn't built in a day. You just got to focus on growing and keep moving the ball forward. It's kind of like anything. If you go to the weight room and you just decide, I want to start benching 310, you don't go put 310 on the bar and just, have no spotter and go. You start by hitting the bar. You start by adding 5 on each side. And once you get those reps in, then you get to 10 and you just start incrementally building it up. It's not built in a day.
I got
How
a
you?
question. Oh, no,
Right.
go ahead, Nate. Go ahead.
I was just about to ask, like, obviously when entrepreneurs start companies, they in the beginning they usually run into problems. I was just gonna ask, like, what sort of challenges you faced and like how you overcame those early in your career.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, it ain't easy. And I think there's a reason only 3% of people on earth have kind of the personality type to truly be an entrepreneur. Everybody says they want to start their own business, but you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot, to not get paid, to forego other great opportunities. There's a framework I really like. It's called Ikigai. It's a Japanese framework. You guys familiar with the Venn diagram? Like those two circles,
Yeah.
and you find the intersection. So imagine a Venn diagram with 4 circles, right? So you got one, horizontal and then vertical, and there's a point all the way at the middle, which is the center point. The framework that I like for deciding if you should start a company or what field you should be working on is what's the intersection of what do you love to do, what are you great at, what does the world need, and what can you get paid for? Now, imagine if there's something that you love to do, the world needs, you're great at, but you can't get paid for. You're just a missionary, right? Like, you think of all the great work that people are doing right now, uh, organizing a lot of the protests going on, right? Like demonstrating, there's amazing folks that are out there, but like, at the end of the day, these people need to find a way to like, make a living because they're not going to be able to be out there every single day, right? And that's something tough. Now, there's other people that they make a lot of money, they are great at what they do. The world needs it, but they don't love it. They're a mercenary. And at the end of the day, if you're just after the money and you don't love what you're after, you're never going to be able to become the best in the world at it because somebody's going to love whatever you're doing that you're doing for money. There's somebody that's going to like love that and they would do it for free and they're going to love it that much more, which is going to force them to become even better. I mean, like think about all the guys that you've played with in high school or growing up before this. There's a lot of guys that had natural talent, but if they didn't want to put the effort in, they weren't getting this level, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
gotta love it. You gotta love your craft, and like the loving your craft. That's what In basketball, that's why you guys are, staying late. You guys are lifting weights. You guys are getting your bodies right to perform at the highest level because you love what you do. You're not doing it because of anything else.
Yes, sir.
I think it's the same for entrepreneur, right? Everybody wants to start their own business, but do you actually want to start your own business? And if so, are you actually doing it in a field that you love? For me, I love sports. I love entertainment. I love connecting people. What a perfect business for me, right? I get to talk to celebrities. I get to make people happy. I get to connect the world. That's a fun business for me. Have any of you guys started a business? What you got?
I started like a online store. I want to say as soon as Corona hit. Because I was doing like I was back home because I was transferring to Howard, and like so I was just doing Instacart, just have a couple of dollars in my pocket. Then Corona hit, and then I didn't have no money because I wasn't trying to go out and get sick, and my family sick.
Yep.
I just started like an online business, which I'm not doing it anymore. It was like I'm into something else right now, but it was like an online. It was like had to do with anime, like had a lot of anime stuff. Cause I know it's a big. A lot of people like anime, so I was like, it's a good target. So I just went into it, and it was straight. I did like I want to say I did like 14 or 1500 in like a couple weeks, but yeah, it was straight. But
Hey, and that's a good start, Isaac. You saw how long it took me to get there.
yeah.
Right. It took me 6 months to get to $125 in sales. You're getting 14, 1500 in a few weeks. Like, man, you're way ahead of where I was.
Coach Jake, why you laughing over there, man? I see you.
No, you're selling anime.
Yeah, I don't care what I sell as long as there's a target for it.
And see, this is my argument that like you should care what you sell. I think right now it's great to be hustling, to be trying to sell anything that you can to get your entrepreneurial spirit up. I mean, for me, when I was in college, I was the guy that organized all the parties at the bars. I got the biggest bar on campus to start doing Wednesday night beer pong, and everybody would come. For athletes at Duke, you weren't able to drink or go out 48 hours before your game. So Wednesdays was always a nice night because basketball usually had game Wednesday after they'd come, and then their next game was usually Saturday. So this was just a good time for whether it was football season, basketball season, people to come out. And look, I learned a lot throwing parties at bars and meeting people and understanding how business works and understanding that I didn't like being in businesses where I ever had to put cash down. I like to be in marketplace businesses where I get paid every time something happens. So my business model at Cameo, I never paid any talent to be on Cameo, but I make 25% of all their bookings, right? So if they come on and they never get booked, hey, no problem. But if they start getting booked, if I'm driving them business, then I want mine. And I've always, and Zach Maritas, who is like one of my business partners, another big Duke entrepreneur, he used to always have this business philosophy of getting in the way of commerce, right, is a great place to be. So you knew people were going to the bars, people want to meet celebrities. If you can do something that gets in the way of that provides that friction, but also makes it high value, you got to provide value or nobody's going to want to pay you. They're going to want to get around. But, you think about what we sell, for example, right? Like the only other way to get a Cameo is if, you happen to, like, let's just say Kyrie. Yeah, Ty can get you to Kyrie. Right? He knows somebody that knows somebody, right? And all of a sudden you could have that video. But how many people in the world got that connect? You know how many people – I'll tell you, I was at Super Bowl and I was with Cardi B. And Cardi wanted to get on Cameo. And she's like, this is dope. I want to get on, but I want to be $0. I'm like, Cardi, give me your phone. She gives me her phone. I open her IG, and she's got – so many DMs. You know how many unread DMs she had? And like the part where you're not following them and it's like you got 39 requests. Most of you guys might have 100. She had 3.6 million unread DMs. So I told her, like, Cardi, that's Cameo for free. Because it's $0, everybody's coming up and you're not incentivized to do it. Even if you were charging $1 from there, think about how many people wouldn't pay $1, but then that suddenly price becomes the friction that facilitates it actually happening. Isaac, I will say, long term, it's great for you to be getting these reps in, but long term, for you to be really, really successful with whatever you're selling, it's a lot more fun to do it if you love anime more than anything in the world, then like you should be selling anime. If there's something else you love more, like you're gonna need to eventually like focus on that. You can learn the fundamentals of sales selling anything, but eventually to be the best in the world, I think you got to be doing something you love.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
You know, my first time watching Shark Tank was at your crib in Chicago in like 2015.
Yep.
And my question is, how many Shark Tank like ideas did you have before Cameo? And how many of them did you actually try to follow through with besides Cameo?
Yeah, that's a good question. Number one, Shark Tank's great. If you like entrepreneurship, it's just a great show to kind of sharpen your sword and start seeing some of these crazy ideas that people are taking to market. It's cool. The other thing that's cool is like we've got now almost all the Shark Tank guys are on Cameo. So I've gotten to meet Damon. I've gotten to meet Mr. Wonderful. I've gotten to meet a lot of those guys, which is cool. Look, I've had a million ideas, right? I think any entrepreneur will tell you they got a million ideas. But what separates, those ideas from the one I did was actually this feeling of like, I'll give you an example. I had the idea for this at my grandmother's funeral of all places, right? That's kind of crazy place to have your, million or $1 billion idea. I was driving home. I was driving my co-founder from the cemetery in Chicago to O'Hare, where I was dropping my now co-founder off. And like, you think about how crazy this is. Like you have that eureka moment, they always talk about the eureka moment, that light bulb. And like that happened. And I'm driving from my grandmother. I'm in my suit driving from my grandmother's funeral. We're talking about this idea. For the next 3 months, I kept working on that. I was working at LinkedIn at the time. And you guys use LinkedIn? You guys know what LinkedIn is? It's kind of like Facebook for work. And I was working at LinkedIn. I had a great job. I was making good money. The world needed what I was doing. It kind of fit all those ikigai concentric circles I was talking about. And suddenly, I have this vision, and I could feel the the chemicals in my brain changing, and I think that probably happened to each of you guys on your career when like you're like, I'm going to play college basketball. Like you just something changed. You were just so dedicated, or like maybe you're the first in your families to go to college. Like, I'm going to get my college degree, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's a conversation you had with your grandmother. And it's like, I'm going to be the first one to graduate college, whatever it is. We've all had that moment where you just like something changes in your brain. And for me, something changed in my brain on that. For the next 3 months, I was telling everyone at LinkedIn, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I'll never forget, LinkedIn would give every employee at work Christmas Eve through the first week of the year off for basically winter break. So I went to Nicaragua with a bunch of the guys, and we were down on New Year's Day. We were drinking a bunch of beers in the hot tub. We're all talking about, this idea that would become Cameo. And, one guy wanted to run sales. Another guy wanted to do product. Another guy wanted to do marketing. We thought we were going to sit at LinkedIn, keep making our fat salaries and get a free lunch and all that shit, and like try to build $1 billion business. And then, this guy, Will Hearn, came up to me, one of my good friends, coworkers. He's like, Steven, this idea is too good. If somebody builds this business and becomes a billionaire and you're still working at LinkedIn, like, could you live with yourself? And nobody asked me that question before, right? Like, that's kind of a crazy question. But the second he asked me that, I'm a competitive fuck. So to me, the answer was hell no. And for me, it was clear that if someone was going to do this, it had to be me, right? And at that point, my mind was made up. I never went back to LinkedIn. If you guys go to my LinkedIn profile and you Google me, and you could actually read the letter that I put out to my team at the time. And I actually talked about this philosophy that Coach K always talks about, the next play, right? Like, hey, whatever happened, like, we're focused on the next play. It's probably something that you guys have been coached up. I was a hockey goalie, so it was always the same philosophy. Like, if I worry about the goal I just gave up, you're going to give up the next one, right? So the next play philosophy has always been one that has kind of been near and dear to me. And in this case, it was so obvious what I had to do that I on conviction, I hadn't sold one yet. In fact, we wouldn't sell a video for 4 or 5 months, but I knew I had to try it. And like when you talk about, are you ready to be an entrepreneur? If you're going to work on something that you could afford, you could literally live with somebody else being the best in the world at, then that ain't the right thing for you to do. Spend your whole life working on. There's something out there that if you're competitive, like you have to be the best in the world at. And in basketball, right? You guys all want to be the best player. Every player, whether you're the best player on the team or you're the manager, like you want to be the starter. You want the ball in your hands for last shot. Right? If you're a coach, you want to win every game. You want to win the natty. You want to cut the net down. You want to be a legend. You want to be a Hall of Famer. It never ends at the highest level. I think NFL did it cool. This year they released their 100 greatest players. You got the Hall of Fame, you got the Gold Jackets, and now there's a new fraternity who's like the Maroon Jackets. Out of all the Hall of Famers, who's the best, right? And I don't care what you're in. There's always competition, and the higher up you get, the thinner the air gets. But like that's where the big dogs are playing. So if you're going to be playing there, just make sure you're doing something you love, because if you're not doing something you love, then someone that loves that more than you is working equally as hard and they're going to win.
Is everybody that who started with you now still?
No. And this is one of the tough things, right? Like, man, I've had to fire my best friend from the business. I fired my brother from the business. And, these are people that came from the beginning. My brother came up with the name Cameo, but like, for a year he was great. He did so much of what we needed. But then, a tough thing about a startup is that some people might be the right person for the job, yesterday and today, but they're not going to be the right person for tomorrow. And I think running a company is like pro sports. When the Lakers could sign LeBron, that meant Lonzo had to move up or out, right? Like, it meant that Brandon Ingram had to move up or out. You're not going to say, hey, we're going to keep you, but like we're like LeBron, you're not coming because we got Ingram, and Ingram's a great player, right? But it's like we got to make sure that we're moving people over, because like anytime you can get better, you got to get better. The best teams win because they got the best players, and you get the best players to come work together. When Ty was at Duke, his whole class, everybody's a McDonald's All-American, right? And the guys that were a year older, every one of them was a McDonald's All-American. And the juniors and the senior, everybody is. So at the end of the day, it's like, you got to come in and you got to fight, and you can't be scared of competition. And sometimes that means you're going to sit on the bench, and then you're going to get better. But hey, by the time you get your time, iron sharpens iron, I believe. Some people like to be the big fish in a small pond, but I think all of us want to be the big fish in the big pond, right? As athletes, as competitors, that's what you want. That's what you want in your teammates. That guy that is pushing you for a starting spot, like you appreciate that. You want to battle that guy every day in practice, because that's what makes you better. And if your practices are harder than the games, think about how much you're going to win.
Who's made the most money on Cameo so far? And then who's like had the highest price point on Cameo?
All right, so the highest earner this year has been actually, and you guys see the Netflix show Cheers? Jerry Harris, it's about the cheerleaders and stuff. Yeah, this guy came on and he's killed. He's like a guy cheerleader, big personality. All-time Gilbert Godfrey, he's the voice of Aflac, and like he's like a Saturday Night Live guy. Gilbert Godfrey, he crushes it. Brett Favre's been one of the best forever. Snoop has made the most, Snoop's first week on Cameo, he made 150 G's. So like Snoop, whenever he wants to turn it on, he can do as well as anybody. And then the most expensive is Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner's $2,500. The Kardashians, man, they got a lot of worth to their name, so they try to keep their price high.
I got another question. Being in California and like sports and entertainment, like most people would say that's like the hub and everything. Do you see that industry maybe shifting to like another state, or you think it would always be California, like Hollywood, maybe like Silicon Valley area?
Yeah, look, I built this business from Chicago. I just got out to LA literally a month ago. So everybody told me I'm from Chicago. I got, maybe I'll switch it up. I got my bull. Like that's me. I'm my Twitter handle is Mr. 312. Like I'm as Chicago as it gets. So to me, it was very cool. The internet. One thing that's great about technology is, I believe talent is evenly distributed around the globe, but historically opportunity hasn't been. And now the thing that's cool is with remote work. I mean, you guys are seeing this in school when campus shut down, you guys got on Zoom. You could be in New York, you could be in Atlanta, you could be in Chicago, you could be in LA. I don't even know where you guys all are right now. You guys are all probably, I bet, there's 15 of us here that we're probably in 6 or 7 different states, right? So the thing that's cool is that with technology, I think there's going to be more opportunity to get out of the cores for all these businesses. If you want to be in tech, you don't have to be in San Francisco. You want to be in entertainment, you don't have to be in LA. Like there's some nice things about where there's clustering, but I think technology is going to open it up for everybody.
For sure. Appreciate it.
When
I
you,
got
oh, y'all, you go ahead. You go ahead. You go.
appreciate it, bro. So like being that student athlete, like what's some advice you'll have for somebody who's trying to get into like entrepreneurship? You know what I'm saying? We don't got as much time.
Yep.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, entrepreneurship you ain't gonna learn in class, right? So if that's what you want to, I think there's 2 things that are key. The best things you can do as an entrepreneur, somebody that aspires to be an entrepreneur, I think number 1, you need to develop like just great relationships with everybody that you're going to school with. I mean, think about how many talented people you go to school with. Like you're going to school with people that are going to be senators and astronauts and CEOs. And like, that's one of the beautiful things about going to a school like where you're at, or for me being at Duke, how many talented people I was around. It's not just the athletes that are great there. I mean, the athletes are great, but the students are probably even, they might even be equally as good at what they do, right? Whether it's playing the oboe or being a debater or, being an award-winning writer or musician, whatever it is, right? Like you're around excellence at your school, just like I was around excellence. So like, I personally think the best thing you can do is to establish yourself, meet everybody, be nice to everybody. Every single kid on campus should walk away, saying like, man, that Kyle's awesome, right? Like, I want to do business with him for the rest of my life. So spend time, build relationships. That's what you get on campus that you don't get anywhere else. You can learn anything in books. The same books are taught, at Howard, at Hofstra, at New Hampshire. Like it's the same books. The special thing about these schools are the people that you're with. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of your teammates. Take advantage of their friends. Find things that you're interested in that maybe you don't have time, and go join a club, right? If you like, like my girlfriend loves horticulture, right? It's like, if you like planning, like go find out the horticulture club. Maybe you're not going to be able to go to every meeting, but hey, you get to go. If you go once a month or every once in a while, all those kids all be excited to have you pop into whatever you're doing. So don't let your basketball schedule limit your opportunities to go do excellent things outside the classroom as well. I think that's really important. It's a big part of college. And then, of course, if you were to come in and work at Cameo, the thing that I always tell my employees is the best way to get your job is the next job is to be excellent at your current one, right? So it's kind of like if you're second string, and your scout team, and you're basically, if you're like not caring, like that ain't making coach want to make you a starter, right? So it's like, it's the same thing where if you're like out there busting your ass every day, pushing the starters, then like they can envision you in that next job, and they're going to want to, and everybody's going to want to give you more responsibility. It's the same in business, right? When you get your first job, you want your next job, do excellent at that first job. I don't care if your first job is getting coffee or like doing menial shit. That's what every entry level job is. They suck, I mean, even coaching. I remember when Ty was, doing GA work and, doing thankless shit, watching film, like doing all that stuff just to get to this point that he's at now where he can coach and do what he loves. And early in your career, I would always say you should trade money for access. You should be fine foregoing money to put yourself in great opportunities, to surround yourself with mentors and people you can learn from that are better than you. Because at the end of the day, you're not the difference between that money you might be foregoing is very little, but those lessons you can learn from somebody amazing, that might change the rest of your life.
I appreciate it.
How did you go about making the Cameo platform? Like how many times was it trial and error, or were you able to hit it off, maybe the first one or two times and find something you liked?
Yeah, this is another good, a good lesson, I think, in entrepreneurship, especially in tech. I like to say don't reinvent the wheel. So at the very beginning of Cameo, right? Today you go on the website and you can watch videos. If you guys ever go to cameo.com or you go to our app, you can watch all these people. Like there's a whole mechanism, like the way it actually works. I'll show you guys what it actually looks like from the back end. So basically the way Cameo works, you can, you have all these different requests, right? And when it's time to like make a video, you basically are able to like, it almost looks like a mix between Snapchat and Tinder, right? So like you read the request, you say yes or no, but if you say yes, it looks like Snapchat, and then there'd be a script. Like if you were to book me, like right here, it would just say, hey, wish Tyler happy birthday and tell him, best of luck on the season, whatever, right? And then I record it, send it off, and get paid. The first V1 version of this was we used to go and email people, and we would say, hey, Cassius Marsh, it's Lucy's 18th birthday. Can you record a video on your iPhone and email it back to us, right? So we did over 10,000 of these transactions before we even built anything. And even now, we're testing out the new product. Eventually, like if there's video call, that should be happening in our app, just like House Party or just like Zoom. But for now, we're just using Zoom to do it. Once we figure it out, then we'll decide to build it or not. So I always think if you can use low code or no code, if you can take things that already exist and just try to run your business on that, you don't need to build. I think that's a big problem. A lot of people try to build the thing that they want before they actually know how it's going to be used. And because we did 10,000 transactions before we built anything, we really knew how to build a perfect product when we were ready to ship it.
Okay, so y'all just ride the wave until you can create your own, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
And change and iterate, right? Another thing, I think, I'll tell you another story. You guys know who Steve Aoki is and Dan Bilzerian? You guys know who those guys are? So those guys, Dan Bilzerian was like, had a big beard. He was famous for being on all these Instagrams with all the, hot women and shit. And Aoki was like the Asian DJ. You've seen him on Instagram and stuff. So anyways, these are two like the biggest social media stars in the world about 5-6 years ago. And the two of them tried to build Cameo like before I built it. I didn't know them. And their whole idea was to build it. They hired these app developers. For 3 years, they were iterating on it, and they never released it. And then by the time they were ready to release the product, I'd already won, right? So it just goes to show, like, get yourself out in the market, start shipping. You should be embarrassed of your early product. But if people want it, like, they're not going to care if they have to email someone or, like, all these hacky things to do. It doesn't have to be perfect on day one. It just has to get incrementally better. I mean, think about how much better TikTok is today than it was, 4 years ago when it was Musical.ly. Or how much better IG is, or how much better Twitter is, or anything. Everything's getting better every day. So focus on shipping, and then the best way to improve your product is to get feedback from your customers.
Appreciate that.
All right, fellas, if anybody else don't have any more questions, Galanis, we just want to thank you, brother, for taking the time out. You got a question?
So it's not like awkward at like family dinners because you fired your brother?
I'm not saying that. And, it's kind of funny that you bring that up because this happened now 3 years ago on right the week of Father's Day. So that's still fresh wounds. I'll tell you, my mom she still bitches at me about it every night, So it's certainly awkward. And, And I live with my brother in Chicago, so that made it awkward. And I'm in LA right now, but I was FaceTiming him, and especially Father's Day is kind of that anniversary of when that went down. So that's not a happy moment in the household. But like I say, my brother worked for 1 year, and hopefully, and he got equity. The cool thing about working at a tech startup is you get stock in the company, and the way that I see it is, hopefully Cameo becomes so big that his 1 year of work there makes him set up for the rest of his life. And maybe he couldn't keep working, but hopefully I buy him a Ferrari one day or something, and then he gets over it.
All right, cool.
But that's a good question.
Little brother or big brother?
The little brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think it would have made a difference either way. I'll tell you that. Easter last year, he didn't want to come to dinner, and we kind of got after it. And I'll tell you what, I put on a lot of weight since my hockey days, and my brother's in great shape. He's about 6'3". He's like strong as shit. But he thought he could take big bro, but that didn't work out well for him. I'll tell you that.
Any more questions, fellas? Anybody else got anything? Any comments? No, all good. Well, Galanis, like I said, it's a special moment, and we appreciate you taking the time out to speak to the guys. We will be playing at Northwestern at the end of the year, right around New Year's, I think. Jake, do you know the dates for that game? The 28th?
29th, I think. 28th or 29th.
28th and 29th. And so, if you're around, we would love to figure out a way to either do dinner with the team or come by the headquarters and just, chop it up again. During that time.
We should do that for sure. I should definitely be back. Again, assuming there's
Hey,
fans
LA
in
is
the
nice,
stadium.
man.
There's fans in the stadium, anything like that. I'd definitely love to come support. Love to have you guys come through. The office. I guess that's actually one kind of interesting thing we didn't talk about. So obviously, is the coronavirus and the pandemic has changed a lot of things. One big shift that we made is we decided to get rid of all of our offices. So now we're running the whole company on Zoom, which is kind of crazy. So, we'll see 6 months if it works. If it's not working, we'll get back into offices. But as of now, this is our office. We got 133 offices. As I like to say, everybody's got their own office at home now.
Nah, that's dope. That's
probably
dope.
Cuts off a lot of expenses too.
What's up?
I'm saying that you probably cut off a lot of expenses.
Yeah, man. I mean, you asked how we got profitable. We got profitable in April, but 125 G's a month to, office, that adds up. That's just rent. And then, you got to have snacks in the office. You got to have toilet paper. You got to have cleaner. You imagine all that stuff. So that was pretty substantial. And you know what we did? We saved a bunch of money. We made a bunch of money. Last month, we didn't announce this publicly, but the business was doing so well. I took the savings that we would have made from having an office, and I took $1 million and I had my employees split it up, split $1 million 130 ways and bonused everybody out, and I said, hey, we're not going to have an office, but if you want to go buy a chair, you want to go buy a new computer, you want to get a desk, whatever it is, go do it.
Wow, that's dope. That's big time. Like I said, fellas, no more questions, man, thank y'all for taking the time out to ask y'all questions. Galanis, we appreciate you. This will be a partnership we're going to build. Obviously, you family. So you're part of the Bison family moving forward. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, send me some swag. I would be wearing your shit instead of this. So,
I got you.
You give me that fresh stuff.
No, I got you. We get you the nice Howard right across the chest, nice and smooth.
I love it. All right, guys. Hey, first of all, I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for having me. Best of luck in the season. Listen to Coach. You got some good guys around, and they know what they're doing. So I'd listen to them.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.